life's great. You're going to have a great life. Again, there's a world of abundance. Life is again very long. Uh, Lifespans earlier was 60. Today it's 80. You're going to live to 120. So there is enough time to run that startup, do that podcast, run 15 companies, have those kids, and live that great life. So have that ability to constantly be agile and change, but at the same time, keep investing back in yourself.
Hi and welcome to Anahita Speaker Series presented by Carnegie India, celebrating stirring stories of empowerment, struggle, and success from women professionals in different fields across the globe. Stories we hope are bound to inspire young professionals. I'm Nandini Nair, working with the Tech and Society program here at Carnegie India. In today's episode, we are honored to have you with us. Divya Jain is the co-founder of Seeko, an AI-powered edtech platform that helps students and young professionals acquire skills and find jobs. She is the CEO and founder of Safeducate, as well as the director of Safe Express. She was the chairperson of the Young FICCI Ladies Organization Delhi from 2023 to 24. She founded the Because She Can non-profit movement and actively works towards creating an ecosystem that empowers young women entrepreneurs and professionals. She was named among Business World's 40 under 40 entrepreneurs and among India Today's 50 most powerful change makers under 50. Divya, it's our absolute pleasure to have you here with us.
Nandini, thank you so much for having me here. It's really a privilege to be a part of this series.
I am thoroughly excited for the conversation we're going to have. And I will quickly, without further ado, move to our first question. Now, this is going back to your academic journey. You started from doing economics at the Hindu, Delhi University, and then went on to do finance at Cambridge. All of this back in early 2000s, when there were almost no women role models in these fields. So what were your motivations and what led you to pursuing these fields?
Right. I wish I had a really fancy answer, but I'll be really honest with you, Nandini. When I look back, it's the 2000s, the world was just opening up. And it's interesting, but I actually like the fact that we didn't have too many choices, right? So I think when you were choosing careers, you could be an engineer, you could be a doctor, you could go to the arts, you could get into commerce. And I feel like it's interesting is that it's a paradigm of choice, right? I think when you have a lot of choice, it's much harder. So I think when it came to choosing economics or choosing finance, for someone who is, come from a Marwari family, I've always seen business all around me. So I think growing up, what I wanted to be was to be just like my dad. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I understood numbers. I understood the economy. And honestly, if I look back, that was really, really exciting time to be a young person in India. We were talking about reforms. We were the first people to see, television, which was not Doordarshan. The internet, like we had, we started from literally the dial-up internet to internet on our phones. So I think coming from there, it was a time where you're like, oh, I want to study the economy. I definitely want to be a part of this whole economic empowerment movement. And most of all, I wanted to be a part of the business world and really start business. And I think that's how this whole journey started. And really, if I look back, economics taught me, economics really taught me how the economy works. And, similarly, Cambridge not just talked about finance, but more than that, gave me a perspective of the global economy and how does India play a role, which of course has grown more and more in days to come. And of course, it's amazing now to have so many women leading the way in all these fields.
You're right. Back then, I think your generation is the one that's seen the most transformation in terms of India as a country. Uh, leading, following this particular question itself, you forayed into business and then went on to social entrepreneurship after your very brief stint at EY. Again, back then, social entrepreneurship is not a very well forayed career option as such. So, what was there any pivotal moment that kind of shifted your trajectory from business to social?
Right. So, and it's a very interesting journey actually, Nandini. So I was working at Ernst& Young. Again, amazing. It was my experience in the corporate world. So for young professionals who are looking to start out, I think working in a corporate gives you that grounding, that ability to, I think go through 30 PowerPoints to make sure you have the right presentation or 2000 Excels to make sure you know your finance. So as much as I learned in my degrees, nothing I think takes away what you learn in a job or a corporate environment. I came back to India. I got married very young at 23. And this was the time that my husband had also come back from business school. My father-in-law was running this company called Safe Express. It was a logistics and transportation company. We were a mid-sized company growing to be a large-scale company. And it had all the problems that a mid-scale company has. It was a large company with lots of employees. We didn't have ERPs in place. We didn't have systems and processes in place. We had 600 locations, and every location worked on its own whims and fancies. We had 3,000 customer. Every single customer used to make his own bill, and we will subki customer invoices would be different, right? So I think it was a very exciting time. Came in, jumped into this space where I was really able to use my economics, my business, and my work in Ernst & Young to really set up systems and processes. So I think the early journey was basically amalgamation of working back with this massive logistics supply chain sector. And here again, this was a place that had never seen women before. So my mother-in-law was never really allowed to come to work because logistics or trucking लड़कियों का काम नहीं है. I remember the first time walking into a warehouse and people are just like worried and scared कि ये लड़की यहाँ पे कैसे आ गई. And I was like, no, but I've learned systems and process and we're going to set this up at Safe Express. And that's what I ended up doing for the next, 5 years. And very soon I realized that there's this huge dichotomy where, there's an industry that was growing at breakneck speed. We were growing at 30% year on year. Newer companies were coming in. They weren't able to manage the growth. At the other end, we realized that we kept getting people on board, and every day the headlines would say ki people are not getting jobs, right? There's, you have all these graduates and they're unemployed. At our own company, I realized that we were hiring graduates who went to the IIMs, who went to the IITs. We got in people, and they wouldn't stay because they didn't understand the sector. So I guess the work made me realize that there's this huge gap where there's an industry that's growing, there are skills that we need, there's a country that has this huge youth population, but they don't have the right skill sets and they don't have the right mindset. So they would come work in a hub, and they didn't know how to manage. So उनकी degrees थी, or they had like they maybe had the technical knowledge, but they didn't know what this workflow looked like, what this job looked like, how their life would pan out. And that actually led me to create Safeducate, which was essentially a company that specializes in employability for youth in supply chain and logistics. Social entrepreneurship, it never came, in school, we always look at business models and how that translates into a business. But for me, it was just like this massive need of our own and, in the industry. And that became a business, and that transformed itself into Safeducate. We went state to state. So we partnered now with over 12 states. NSDC, that was the National Skill Development Company. They came on board with one of their first partners. They came on board as, they gave us debt equity. We're one of the first people to partner with the government, and we set up 100 institutes across the country where we were skilling and training people. And then we've been supplying these people to over 3,000 companies. So everyone from so I first started with Safe Express, but then very slowly we realized that I was giving them to Gati, Reliance, All Cargo, so every single logistics and retail company is something that we started working with. We tried understanding what their needs were, schools, colleges, and we were able to manage this. So to answer your question, I think it's been more a journey of finding a need and getting a solution, and how does that solution then become a business enterprise. And similarly, I think with Seco was it's a COVID baby. I still remember 27th April, Modi ji announced that the country is going into lockdown. I have my 100 centers. I had 50,000 students, and I mean these are centers. There's Ranchi and there's Orissa in Assam, Meghalaya, and these are residential centers. And these kids had to go home in 2 days. So one, we were trying to figure out how do we send them back to their villages. But then I was really petrified. I was like, "Ek baar mere bacche if my students leave their program, then how are they going to come back? And all the work that we've done with them for the past 3 to 6 months, that's going to be lost." And a lot of these people didn't have the resources to connect with us, and we didn't have digital platforms. So that really led to the creation of Seco, where I met my two co-founders and we created this digital platform that was helping them get skills, and that again now has evolved into its current form. So I think to answer your question, social entrepreneurship is something that's being motivated mostly by need, and I think and how do you get the resources to make it sustainable? And I feel like there's a great business that you can make just by focusing on the need and getting the right people and resources to work on that.
Picking up from something that you said, as you said, Seco was a COVID baby. In truest sense, Safe Educate was your baby, right? Right from conception to everything. What are some hard lessons you learned as a first-time founder of a business?
God, I have so many lessons. What are the hard lessons is, I mean, pretty much whatever you account for. And my father-in-law said it, I didn't believe him. But whatever your revenue projections are, reduce them by half. Whatever your cost projections are, double them. It will always be more expensive. It will always take more time than what you feel. Revenues will always be lesser. Secondly, I think what's really important is when you're creating any business, you need to create value and make sure your customers are paying for them. So very in this urge to scale, very often you're happy to give complimentary services. You're able to give more, but decide what you're going to do. Make sure you charge for it. And thirdly, very importantly, in any business strategy, decide what you're not going to do. Right. So I think very early on when we started Safe Educate, we were like, listen, we are only going to do training, and we're only going to focus on logistics and supply chain as a space. When you're a young company, there are so many things to do. Right. There are 100 things that can happen, but then you have two things that are you limited by is your time and your resources. So that single-minded focus is incredibly important, that decide what you're not going to do and be incredibly good at what you're actually planning to do. And I still remember the first couple of batches that we trained at Safe Educate. I'll give you a story of my first batch. We trained about 200 kids. These are students who've come in from college, from university. They've trained with us for 3.5 months. There's a company called Jabong. They had a supply chain company that they set up, and I knew the founder really well. So we went and we placed these three, and they got jobs within Jabong at that point of time. And within a month and a half, they all left. Right, the students just kind of went back home. They didn't like the work environment, and the first thing was that, and you're just shocked. It's like I just spent 6 months getting these people, training them, lots of resources spent, and what's going to happen. And you went back to the drawing board and you were just like, I'm not okay with this. Like, let's make this happen. So we got a new set of people. We retrained them. We understood actually the problem there, Nandini, was I had spoken to the founder. So basically, I had spoken to the founder. I had a conversation with them. I had not talked to the HR. that was actually at the regional levels. And the regional HRs were really upset that there was someone in the corporate office that was trying to sidestep them. So when we had these conversations, we really realized that, I had to talk to that guy in Jamshedpur if there's going to be a person who's going to come from Delhi and be in Jamshedpur. So for me, that was just such an important lesson that you can't do this remote control running. If you're going to run localized operations, you need to talk to the local. You need to have these conversations. So again, I think that was an amazing learning that I got. So every challenge that we faced, every time that we've messed up, I think going deep into the problem and solving it has given us these principles that has helped us build out the business. So, every time I set up new operations, we make sure that we go regional, talk to the people on the ground, understand the problem for what it is, and give localized solutions versus coming up with a helicopter plan at corporate and assuming that everyone's going to listen and follow suit.
I'm pretty sure the founder listeners that we have, or the entrepreneurs listeners we have, would really resonate with the going local approach, because I think first principles are often overlooked, especially when have your first hand at something. Slightly foraying a little parallelly into an initiative I feel like is a common thread in all your endeavors, which is going digital, be it your edtech slash job tech, or one of the core initiatives of Because She Can is because digital matters. There is a growing consensus, right, that we are at the epoch of digital transformation and there is so much potential that could be unlocked. So the question is, how do you see digital force as a catalyst for women's empowerment, given that you have like a very first-hand view into this?
I kind of feel that, and I love this question, Annie, but I kind of feel that at some levels we overemphasize digital. But what we need to kind of understand is that, digital is like a pen. It's like your phone. It's a device. So it's sort of a device that if you have a core message, you kind of need digital platforms to help you take them to the world. And it's just another medium. Earlier you had newspapers, you had face-to-face meetings. Digital is just like a platform that can help you reach a lot. And the use of this digital platform is going to be personalized for your purpose and what you're trying to do and achieve. And finally, like I said, first of all, it has to be localized. There's not going to be one solution that's going to, fit all. So, again, I go back, like when we first we talked about globalization, right? We talked about one world, one globe. But at the end of the day, it's not one globe, one world. I think it's about one community. You want to create localized communities. And, you need to have localized communication. And I feel these digital platforms play an incredibly important role in enabling that. So when and I'll take two examples. I'll talk about, Because She Can, I'll talk about Seiko. And if I talk about Seiko, Seiko is talking about getting skills to, the youth. But at the end of the day, you want to get the skills that are localized and make sense for you. Very small example, every state in India is almost like its own country. Right. So now, if I have someone in UP, if I have someone in Assam, if you have someone in Maharashtra, Maharashtrian child is way more comfortable in their own local language than an instructor in the UK or the US or even a Delhi or an NCR talking to them. So I feel like there needs to be these models, and it's enabling it where at one level it's giving you access to world-class skill where you can get the best of the best and bring them to your local environments. But at the second end, you also have to localize that learning experience with them, and digital gives you, and it really brings down your cost of being able to do that. Similarly, with these, digital empowerment movements, I think it's been fantastic. The stories that we have shared and the ability to take this to the ground level, to take them to the villages, to take them to the BC grade towns. And for women empowerment in particular, in fact, this is my third point, but, we met the president, we met Dr. Murmuji last month, and she talked about, how we can use a phone. And again, and she's fantastic. She's 66. She's, and again, it's empowering to have a tribal woman from Orissa leading this country. She doesn't speak in English. we were conversing. So she doesn't really talk in English. We're conversing between a mix of Odia and Hindi. And what she said was, Divya, can you use the phone to, bring digital skills to women? Because now women can actually be online. They can be at home and work. I have two kids. I have an 11-year-old. I have an 8-year-old son. And, there's so many meetings that I'm running on Zoom, from home or from class or running behind things. So I think there's definitely something that if we need to empower this, use technology for our benefits. But at the same time, we also need to realize that the rules have changed. So there'll be certain rules that if women are working from home, if women are working digitally, there'll be certain rules they have to follow, and have to be certain flexibility and maybe monitoring systems that businesses will need to create to let this integration happen. Problem क्या होती है that we feel कि जो हमारे office के rules हैं, the same rules will apply in a digital environment, and both of them don't really work. You will have to have digital communities. You'll have to have maybe rules. You can't be sitting messaging, talking to people at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. So थोड़ा हमारे को rules create करने पड़ेंगे. And I think that's a great space where a lot of work, that I'm particularly working on. And I feel like that we'll get more and more clarity on how this digital space will work in different environments and how we can converge that to improve the work we're doing, and empower more and more people.
I think that was really insightful. I've not heard people talk about the, new set of rule bringing because of digital as a medium empowering people. And picking up on that line of how we have no idea how the digital world kind of is going to shape in the coming years, right? And that, of course, translates into a lot of dynamic nature of job market, especially given how AI is just there, but also changing things. So I believe, especially as a young person in this economy, there is a lot of tension, a lot of nervousness about we don't know what it looks like in the future. So what kind of jobs are we really, skilling ourselves for or educating ourselves for? However, apart from just education and skill gap, do you think there are any other significant gap that exists that challenges, employability of the youth in a very AI driven world?
I love this question, and you're going to get a very philosophical answer from me, but I mean, I'm going to love talking about this. Again, like I said, there's been a drastic shift in the world that we live in, right? When we grew up, when our school systems was made, when the curriculums was made, it was made in a non-digital environment. We were created in a world of scarcity, right? When we were growing up, there were limited resources. आपको energy चाहिए, there's coal, there's fire, that's limited. We are talking about using hydro and we're talking about using water for energy, which essentially means that you, Nandini, live in a limitless world, right? My problem was a problem of scarcity. When I said the first question was like, what did you decide? There were 300 seats in Delhi University, and you were lucky to bag if you had if you had 99.8%, you could get economics in Hindu, and that's what you went and did, right? Again, transform that and take that to 2024. You live in a world of abundance, right? There are 20,000 sort of opportunities that today exist. There are IITs, there are IIMs, you can go online. There are online colleges, universities, you can go anywhere in the world, you can learn online. So I feel the fundamental difference is that we need to break this mindset of going from living in scarcity to living in abundance. The generation today that is dealing with is with the abundance of choice. And I think one of the biggest skills that we need is your ability to critically think and learn. So AI is going to come. Every single job that you do is going to go away. As podcasters, there'll be an AI model who's going to be, possibly, using a deep fake to have your face. There'll be an AI which will possibly be generating those questions. There'll probably be an AI version of Divya who's going to be answering these answers, and that is possibly going to happen. And I look forward to that future. But the thing is that, Nandini and Divya will be doing something differently. But to do that, what do we need is this ability to critically think, to constantly, take change and be able to deal with that. And fundamentally, it believes with, changing that mindset that we're going from scarcity to abundance. We need to be able to train our minds to think, to think logically, to think through change, to think through pressure. So, whether it's COVID is just the beginning. There is going to be bigger and bigger challenges that we're going to keep facing. And we as a human race have to have the ability to challenge that and keep changing with that. How do we do that? At the basic level, learn to control our mind, right? Meditate, fitness, relationships. Second thing, if I'm talking about, actual thinking, critical skills, how are you doing that? Are you constantly learning? Are you, so whatever field that you've chosen, what do you enjoy doing? I look at change. I'm looking at, I'm looking at entrepreneurship. I'm working on a startup. But within the startup, can I keep experimenting? Can I keep changing? Can I keep upskilling myself? Be connected. If I'm on social media, I'm a social media marketer. I've learned 12 platforms. Can I keep, maybe devoting 20% of my time to looking at what's happening in the world and maybe 10% to keep upskilling myself? And at the same time, have that comfort in life that, life's great. You're going to have a great life. Again, there's a world of abundance. Life is again very long. Lifespans earlier was 60, today it's 80. You're going to live to 120. So there is enough time to run that startup, do that podcast, run 15 companies, have those kids, and live that great life. So have that ability to constantly be agile and change, but at the same time keep investing back in yourself. If I had to give just three things that you guys should be doing, or anyone should be doing, is clean out your social media feed, right? Understand which are the platforms that I'm looking at. Am I looking at Reddit? Is the place where you get new ideas, right? Twitter is the place where you're going to get what's trending in the world. Social, your Instagram and Facebook will talk about what everyone else is talking about, and YouTube is for all the other things. So clean out your feeds. Look at what are the information you're consuming. Where you're learning. What are the platforms you're learning from? And then spend 20% of your time on that. Spend 20% of your time just on meditate, walk, work out, get out of your rooms, get this physical fitness in. And the rest 60% of your time should be on building. So whether it's your work, whether it's your startup, whether it's, whatever pays the bills. I think that for me is going to be a breakup of someone looking at growing and building always.
I really like the answer. It's picking up from that nimble framework of mindset. You have quite constantly reinvented yourself, be it being a founder, being a chairperson, being now you're pursuing an education at Harvard, you're also into boxing. There is a constant theme of Divya Jain reinventing herself. Uh, so, what is next for you? What's the future version of you looking like? What's the next thing you want to try?
Oh God. So super happy where I am, Nandi, and I love this. I personally love this reinvention. Again, it's not reinvention. I think it's just, I think seeing what's happening with the world. At some, my husband always says that her ADHD has ADHD. So I think for me, I am really, and again, one of the things that I did was I did something called this Clifton Strengths. It's by Gallup. It's a survey that you do that gives you like your top strengths. And I feel like one of my top strengths is ideas. And I feel like fundamentally I'm an ideas person and I love figuring out new ideas, implementing them in my life and implementing them in my world. So I think whether it's Sikho boxing, nowadays, by the way, it's pickle. So pickleball is my new fitness uh, sort of place to be. And what does the future look like? It looks super exciting. I'm very excited to build out. I'm having a lot of fun building on because she can. Again, everywhere in the world, like I went to HBS, and it was all about like women centric development. For far too long, we have lived in a world where we think about developing women. I think now it's just about what the role that women can play in leading development. And the thing is, women think differently, we act differently, right? So I feel like in any business, there is a different sort of arena that we bring in. We are probably more emotional. If we're building our products are going to be appealing to a different sort of uh, uh, emotion center for consumers. So I feel like I think having more and more women in the workplace is something that I look forward to championing, and can't wait to see where that grows.
Picking on the bit where you said that you're an ideas person. Horn, okay, please. Horn, please. Sorry. The book, the photo essay book. For those who don't know, Horn, please is a photo essay book on the life of truck drivers in India. How did you possibly come about the idea of A, being an author, B, being a photo essay, medium for your book?
So, fun story. This basically happened, again on the dinner table. Delhi had this insane pollution, and the front page of the newspaper basically read, "Ban all trucks," pollution in Delhi. And it was just like, trucks go, if we ban the trucks, how are you going to get your bare essentials into the city? Right? Like, it's your trucks that are getting your medical supply. It's the trucks that are getting the food to your tables. It's the trucks in India. I mean, 95% of all transportation in our country happens through trucks. We have the largest system of road transportation that exists. But at some level, all you're talking about is trucks ne pollution kar diya. And the second big piece of news was truck drivers say AIDS felt that, right? So that was it. I love the look on your face, because I think 15 years back that was just that literally used to be the story, and the idea was, why can't we change this narrative? Truck drivers, we pilots man airplanes and they get so much respect. These truck drivers are literally living our lives, but we are um, we barely give them time for space. And there's a story that my father-in-law told me that really stuck home. इसके एक truck driver था, और वो he was waiting to get one of his bills cleared. तो उसने जाके अपने, he went and asked his customer, he asked the guy that, can you please, I've been waiting for a day and a half, can you please clear my bill? And the guy's like, I'm also human. And the guy replied back, he's like, oh, but I thought you were a truck driver. So that kind of stuck home, and I was like, I want to talk about it, and that was one of the first projects that I picked up. But I was like, let me go and explore their lives. And once I started moving around, I realized that these trucks are gorgeous. All these trucks would have people painting on them. They'd have messages at the bottom. And like I said, 30 states, 30 different countries, 30 different sort of cultures kind of existed. It was an amalgamation of the different cultures of our country. And that really, I was like, let's, and you couldn't have words weren't capturing the feeling that you're getting. So I think I got 4 photographers again from different parts of the world. So I got a French, New Zealand, US, and Israeli photographer who kind of came together and we created this collage. And it was amazing because we could actually celebrate, these amazing people who are driving our country and our world. So it was again an interesting experience and giving a voice to probably people who otherwise and before this hadn't had a voice. And it's lovely to be able to change that narrative. No, correct. I mean, and honestly, I think the stories that we share and the stories that we tell ourselves are the stories we believe in, and that's the world we make it. So, great job doing this. You are a fantastic host. You're going to pull up different aspects and put them together. So,
I think, yeah, it really struck me when I read your profile and I saw the mention of the book. But with that, we have come to the end of our conversation. We are at the hard stop, which is 30 minutes. It was so wonderful chatting with you, Divya. I really enjoyed the conversation. And thank you so much for taking our time for this.